So, Harry, it's your Jewish mama. And I want to tell you, I was really shocked when I saw that interview with Stephen Colbert because you said we were forced to flee our country. Well, my mother was forced to flee her country, Czechoslovakia, during World War II because of Nazis. Amongst them, supporting them were your uncle, the former King of England, Edward, who was planning to take over the UK to go back as a king, and instead of Elizabeth, your grandmother, and to make England part of the Nazi Germany empire. That was the plan in World War II. So I'm surprised you're so ignorant about language. You wrote a book, and yet you don't understand that the word fleeing, we were forced to flee our country, has a lot of very clear, strong connotation of war situations. People are forced to flee somewhere when they are in a war situation. Like people are forced to flee Iran. People are forced to flee the Nazis or anywhere, any regime that is fascist. You live in England and you are part of the royal family and you're forced to flee. It's sort of sad because England is home to a lot of people that were forced to flee places in Africa, in the Middle East, that are not safe. And if I were to say I was forced to flee Israel, it kind of would make sense because I'm living under threat of Iran and every Arab country here, even those with peace agreements. I don't really know if they're going to keep them. So to say I was forced to flee with my wife and my child, I think you have a sort of movie in your head that you are a victim, a refugee, when in truth you are a privileged millionaire, comes from one of the richest, wealthiest families in Europe. And you made millions like this. Well, all of us have to work hard for our living. You just like this make $100 million by writing. You didn't even write that book. And when you say, every word there is from my mouth or something like that, no, it's not. Somebody wrote it for you. You don't have the education to write things. And I'm really sad that somebody didn't edit for you, because we really could have lived without the description of your private parts. I think it shows lack of judgment and really bad taste and lack of form. I mean, you're from a country where manners are very important, and yet you describe your genitalia. Is this the legacy you want to leave Archie and Lilibeth? And the way you talk about your family, ignoring all the good things they do, while you claim to be this victim, this Jesus on the cross. Really, I mean, you and Megan are like Jesus Christ on the cross. You're like martyrs. That's how I see it, martyrs. And there's another point you forgot that just came. Just all this exposure made me think about, 3 points. First of all, you are not a refugee. You did not have to leave a war zone. Second of all, you did not write the book. Somebody wrote it for you and not edited at all. Number 3, that occurred to me just recently, thinking about it. Your mother, your dear mother, Diana, she didn't actually get killed in England. She got killed in Paris, France, while hanging out with her lover. I don't think identity is important as much as she was a very well-liked, loved woman. She wasn't exactly busy in a soup kitchen and then a truck hit her. She was with her lover, her millionaire son lover, in Paris. It wasn't England. England is not Paris, and Paris is not London, and London is not Paris. So why would you feel in danger to live in England when your mother was killed abroad? The second thing is, if you look statistically, which any sane person would, if you just Google the statistics, UK is far safer than US in every way, in racism, U.S. has far more anti-Semitism and racism, and the history of slavery is much more horrific than the UK. UK released slaves much earlier, a few decades earlier before US. And in US, there's still some regions that are very prone to racism, open racism. And there's so many hate crimes compared to UK. And I don't understand how somebody who seeks privacy goes to the most exposed area. US has areas where you could just disappear, nobody will even know you would live there. There are areas in the South where people could just disappear. When I visited there, I would just, there's swamps there. I don't know. People can just disappear. You can live a quiet life in some quiet state. But no, you chose to be in the center. Why? Because I do believe, contrary to what I saw on YouTube, somebody said, I do think it's not therapy for you, but it's money making that drove you to write this terrible book. And the more scandals, the better it sells. And I think it's time people think about, you said, I thought about what kind of things I expose myself to, my brain, the media. Yes, people should really think about it and definitely not buy that trashy book that trashes other people. Talking badly about your family, it's not just your family, but a person who's going to be the King of England one day, and the person that is the King of England one day, is ridiculous. Let me address also the issue of affection. I come from a European family, Jewish European family. My cat died when I was a child, and nobody hugged me. It was my favorite cat. I mean, I only had one cat at that point, and she just had an accident and died. And I was very, very upset. It was losing a family member. It was shortly before my father died, actually. Nobody hugged me when my father died either. And I was a very young girl also. And nobody ever hugged me, period. This is European culture. I don't know, but we just don't hug. European people don't hug. And as far as hugging, the question is, what does the hug mean? If it's artificial, like the way some people just do it in order to look really cool and friendly, and there's nothing behind the gesture, then it's better not to hug. If you're just acting, I'm so friendly, I don't want to name names, but like one particular woman who claims to be a hugger, but yet she disowns her father, So let me quote something a rabbi told me once. Your actions and your words, Shiva, stop. Your actions and your words have to go together. Yes, Shiva agrees. The actions and words have to be together if you make sense. And when you say you're a hugger, but you disown your father, I can't even imagine. I lost my father at a young age. I can't even imagine my father living a short distance from me, and I disown him after he raised me, sent me to a private school, paid for my university, did everything for me, and then I just disown him and not let him meet his grandchildren, and only let wealthy people that are movie stars meet my children. I mean, there's something very disturbing in that. And the fact that my wife is a big liar, as we can see from everything that she ever says, every word she says is a lie. And when you say every word I say is the truth, I think it's ridiculous. Your nose, if you were Pinocchio, your nose would be long enough to reach UK. The lies are so easy to discover. And so before you talk, check to see if you're actually talking anything that makes sense. And as far as your wife being the center of your world, it's kind of sad because you only know her for a short amount of time. You just met, you immediately had children with her, immediately acted as if she was like your soulmate, which is really nice, but there's nothing to back up that decision as being rational. She doesn't tell the truth. She's not a very kind person. Because she disowned her entire family, she just alienated them. She invited only famous people to her wedding, famous wealthy people she doesn't even know to your wedding, and you don't invite your own family, what you grew up with. She claims she doesn't have a family, which in fact she has a lot of family, and your children will never meet them because she has this crazy alienation thing that narcissists do. You are in fact married to a narcissist, and in fact the question I have in my mind, are you a narcissist or are you just under the spell of a narcissist? This is, I think, what a lot of people battle with, because the way you treat your family is not very nice. And I think every time I hear descriptions about your fight with William, it just sounds completely mad and doesn't make sense. The dog bowl cracked. I have a dog bowl. It's made out of tin. And he pushed you on a dog bowl and you had injuries to your back, and yet you call a therapist, not a doctor. If your back, in fact, was injured, why didn't you go to a doctor to put something on it? It could have been infected. It doesn't make sense at all. And your wife wanting to end her life doesn't make sense at all, because there's just like no history. Like a person has a history, a certain medical history. A person doesn't just wake up at age 40 plus, I don't know, some people claim she's 50, and say, oh, I want to kill myself. Usually people that have suicidal thoughts at age 40 plus have had them before. Things don't just happen. Suicide is a very, very, very strong decision or conclusion. And unless she had like a major trauma, which she usually causes the major trauma, she's not victim of a trauma, I don't see the reason why a person 40 plus with no history, and I'm repeating, no history of wanting to kill herself before. She had an amazing childhood. I would say privilege, went to a private school in a country where not a lot of people go to a private school. It's very expensive in the US. She went to a private school. She got everything she ever wanted. Everything. Her father gave, the slogan was, your wish is my command. Everything she ever wanted, she got on a silver platter from her father, from her husband. She was never a victim of anything as far as I know, or she would have definitely mentioned it. And yet, she wanted to kill herself at 40 plus. Why? Because somebody wrote something about her in the newspaper? Come on. And she's an actress. So it's a person that's definitely been exposed to media. I'm sure there's at least one person who wrote a bad review of Suits. It wasn't, for me, creme de la creme. It wasn't like the best quality show. And to begin with, I kept thinking when I watched it, why am I watching this? It's baloney. What your precious wife did was basically disrobe and have sex in the office most of the time. And then all of a sudden, she was this very smart paralegal, but just snippets of legal things, and then mostly she was just like on a table in the closet having sex. So I don't really understand that as a quality role, because I don't think the problem is that your wife was an actress at all. Actors are actually one of the most intelligent people in society, but the problem is what she did for acting was kind of played the bimbo again and again and again. And then she claims she was framed to be the bimbo. No, every actor gets the role that suits them. And Suits definitely was the kind of role that she could do. She didn't do it, she didn't play anything. It's not the color of the skin. We have many amazing African American actors and actresses that I could just name. Sidney Poitier, there's another one, Telly something. There's a lot of them, including Oprah Winfrey, who play characters, who play roles that don't involve having sex in a closet. So your wife is not really the kind of actress that did quality roles. She didn't do Shakespeare. And yet she has this ambitions to be president. She has this ambitions to save the world. And yet she doesn't have any contact with people that were contributing to her having had one of the most privileged lives in America. I mean, the girl got private schooling, university, whatever anyone could wish for. And yet she's like a victim. And you were forced to flee your country. It's so sad because so many people were forced to flee their country. Like you invaded Afghanistan, right? You guys came to Afghanistan because there's the Taliban, okay? But there are a lot of people that had to flee Afghanistan because of the Taliban. How could you be so insensitive? And for those of you who are buying this book, I would say spare the money. Give it to charity. Give it to refugee fund, because what you have done, Prince, is just completely manipulate with your sad story. And I'm not sure if you're aware